Hello, Carrots here. Welcome to the Isla Paradiso bunch. We find our crew in France, or Champs-les-Sins. There's 3 adventurers that we're playing with today. It's Craig Miller, Meryl Manson and Muriel Weston. Craig is going to be doing some work at the Nectary, and then Muriel will solve a ghostly problem before Meryl asks the sim out for a date. Now here's Craig. He's rather tired. He's already been at the Nectary doing a few little jobs, and he's still there. He's just taken a nap in one of the bedrooms at the Nectary. This is upstairs in the Nectary. But he's got an adventure already that he got from the last episode. It's a little experimentation, and he's been asked this question. Take this set of fruits, smash them in the nectar machine, and make more nectar. I guarantee you'll be surprised by what emerges. Each unique combination of fruits has its own charm, and some will taste much better than you might expect, others not so much. So make a nice or better quality nectar and bring it back to me. He's been given 10 limes, which he's added to the nectar machine and squished it, and he's asked it to make basic nectar. Because his nectar making skill isn't very high yet, I think he's about a level 2. He's delivered his nectar and he's earned 30 visa points. Craig's working, of course, for Charlotte Dubois, the nectar merchant at the Nectary.
Bad?
Immediately, Craig gets another adventure. Even better for Craig Miller. You are well on your way to becoming a renowned creator of nectar. Now, I want you to create a nectar that is at least very nice or better, and bring it to me. I shall reward you with some nectar. Objective: create a bottle of nectar that is very nice or better and deliver it to Charlotte Dubois. Reward: treasure, ancient coins and simoleons. When Craig got his extra visa points from completing his previous adventure, he was given a promotion to visa level 3. So now he can stay in France longer than he could before, and he can actually purchase more rewards from the special merchant. On his first attempt to make this much better quality nectar, I just used some fruit that he had in his inventory, and he put 6 Renoir grapes and 4 Chamolo Blanc grapes into the nectar machine. And while he was making that nectar, his nectar making skill got upgraded to level 3. First of all, he had to stomp the grapes, but then when he got it to actually manufacture the grapes, get the machine to do its work, I sent him outside to pick some more fruit, because there's plenty of fruit to be had in the garden beside the Nectary and around the Nectary. It takes a long time for a sim to stomp the grapes, and the next part of the process is when he gets out of the vat of grapes, of stomped grapes, and goes to the machine and sets the machine up to actually turn that grape juice into nectar. And it takes him quite a while to set the machine up as well, to get it running just how he wants it. And he's obviously still learning because he's only at level 3, only just got to level 3 in the nectar making skill. But when he's finished setting up the machine to his exact requirements to try to produce very nice or better nectar, I will send him outside to pick more fruit, because I'm sure he'll need to make it. Again, I doubt that he'll get the quality that he wants from this batch. Because it's late outside, and back at the base camp, Meryl has found herself a bed. She's getting her sleep. She's currently achieved absolutely nothing in France, so we'll give her a little adventure later on at the end of the video. As you can see from her adventure log, in France, 0. She achieved no visa points whatsoever. And we can't have that from a member of the adventuring team, although she was left at home as the babysitter when the last lot went adventuring, so we can't blame her entirely for her lack of achievement in France. Now Craig's gone off in the dark to look for more grapes. He wants more variety, so that next time he's left the machine churning away back at the Nectary, but he knows he's going to have to make more grapes or more nectar, because that lot was just, well, he knew it just won't be up to scratch. He needs a better quality. He needs better quality fruit. He needs a more variety of fruit. So he's going to the old abandoned Nectary, which is near the river. And this is a house now that you can actually live in once your Sims get to level 3, should you choose to move them into it, instead of going to the base camp. And he's now got to level 3 in France, so he can buy himself and his household a house in France at any time now. He's got plenty of simoleons, so he can afford to do it, and he's got the visa level as well. So we'll probably will buy them a house, but we're not going to buy this one, because I've actually bought it before when I've been travelling, and it is a great house to have your Sims living in, but I'd rather go and explore a different house that I haven't been in before. There's lots of room in it, and you can actually have quite a large household of Sims living comfortably in that building. As you can see, it's just near the river, not far from town. Now, since Muriel was awake, I decided to send her to the little fishing hole because I saw a firefly flying around there and I wanted her to catch it. But I didn't actually record her catching it, so we just sent her there and left it to it. And then Craig's nectar was ready, so he'll just leave that at the Nectary while he finishes what he's doing. Now, I wanted Muriel to collect more fireflies, but I couldn't find any, so I went into map view, and her collection helper confirmed that there were no insects or fireflies out. But since I was in map view, I did discover where the unicorn was, near a pond with some wild horses. So I thought I will watch the unicorn and see if I could get a little bit of nice video of it. And while I was watching the unicorn, I saw the train go by, so I had to get the train too. By this time, Craig had made his way back to the Nectary to collect his nectar that he'd made, and I was right. He didn't have very high quality nectar, so he had to try again. And this time he tried a different mixture of grapes. He had plenty of grapes, so he put in 10 Mallois grapes as a experiment, and then he squished them for a while. And once he'd squished them for a while, he went off and he picked some more fruit from the fruit trees that grow around the Nectary. Then, when he'd squished them enough and they'd turned into juice, he again used the machine to convert the juice into very nice or better quality nectar. And while the machine was doing its magic, he went out into the Nectary grounds and he picked some fruit. There's plenty of fruit growing around the Nectary, but it's not always ready to harvest. When he looked earlier, he couldn't find any grapes that were ready to harvest, but this time he looked at the fruit trees and he found that there was fruit that he could harvest and use for his next batch of nectar. Since he had such low confidence of success with his currently brewing batch of nectar, he decided to go back into the Nectary and use the other machine, which was currently empty or idle. And he tried to make a new nectar, an experiment with 5 apples and 5 Renoir grapes. And that's what he did next. Now, this particular nectar recipe is supposed to be an excellent recipe and great for beginners. And according to Carl's Guide, it is supposed to produce amazing quality nectar. So it will be interesting to see the results he gets from this particular nectar. That is 5 apples plus 5 Renoir grapes, because you need 10 fruit to go into the vat to make nectar. had a look at Craig's adventure journal. He's got level 3 visa points for France and Egypt, but he's only on level 1 or 0 for China. I think we're going to be going to China next. But it doesn't matter if he doesn't have level 3 for China, because he doesn't have the lifetime wish that requires him to get a top visa level, and for all of the different worlds. And there's several Sims in their household, and one of the others has probably got level 3 visa for China. And they only need to have that one Sim travelling with them when they go to China for them to be able to buy their own home there. The nectar that he started earlier, with the 6 Renoir grapes and the 4 Chemolia Blanc grapes, has now been made, and it turns out that it was good enough. It must be very nice or better quality. So he's handing that in to Charlotte Dubois. And she's quite happy with what he's produced. And this is what she's got to say to him. She loves the nectar. She says, "This is simply superb. There is no more I can teach you at this time. You know what I know. Why, I believe you could take nectar making to a golden age, the likes of which has never been seen. Take this bottle of nectar and these simoleons. You have helped me a great deal, Craig." Craig has earned 3 bottles of nectar, 210 ancient coins, and 408 simoleons. So we'll leave Craig now, and it's Muriel's turn. She needs to get her adventure from the adventure board, and then we can get started with her fun in France. Oh yes, there's Craig's nectar. He'd better go and pick that up. It's ready for him. Back at the Nectary. That's the nectar that he just made with the grapes and the apples. More like Haunted Garden for Muriel Weston. Help! It turns out there may have been a reason my secret garden was sealed off. It is haunted. Do you think you could communicate with the apparition for me? Perhaps find out what it wants, what it will take for it to leave, or perhaps what it is willing to pay in rent. Its tombstone is in the garden. Objective: find the tombstone in the secret garden and attempt to communicate with the restless apparition. Reward: none. That Sim is a tourist, and he's from Isla Paradiso, and they know him. His last name's Kale, I should say. So off she goes to the Dubois household. Now she needs to go and knock on the door. Oh, this is the Dutil household. Leah Dutil. In my big game, one of my Sims actually cloned this one. So you're wasting time here, Muriel. You need to go into the garden and communicate with the apparition in the tombstone. So that's where you need to be. There she is in the garden, communicating with the tombstone. The only option is to mourn, and that's all she has to do, really. Of course, this is another adventure chain, so as soon as she's communicated with the apparition, she gets another adventure. This one is Love in Bloom for Muriel Weston. Upon mourning at the tombstone, a voice whispers on the wind. My beloved adored pomegranates. She loved to eat them after every meal. I believe the garden could be truly complete if pomegranates were planted in my garden. If this were done, I believe I would be able to finally rest. Objective: deliver 6 pomegranates to Leah Dutil. Pomegranates are primarily found in Egypt. Well, Muriel's got no intentions of travelling all the way to Egypt to get pomegranates. She knows there's more than one way of getting a pomegranate. She doesn't happen to have any in her inventory at the moment, so she's going to try the cafe. That would be her first choice, and if she can buy pomegranates at the cafe, well then she will be a very happy little sim. Now, I've found that sometimes when a sim needs something like the pomegranates or shawarma or whatever, and they can buy it from the cafe, sometimes it's not available there for them. But if they are travelling in a group of sims, one of the other sims in the group can usually buy the whatever is needed and then give it to the sim that needs it. So sometimes the game hides things from the sim that actually needs to find or get or buy something to complete an adventure, but it doesn't hide it from other sims in the household. So it's worthwhile getting another sim to try to go and buy what you want if the sim with the adventure can't. So here she is, she's arrived at the cafe and she's going to see if there are pomegranates there and if she can buy some. I sort it in alphabetic order to make it easy to find them. That way you don't have to know the price of everything. Yes, she can buy pomegranates. I'll get her to buy a few of them. She might need them elsewhere later on. So she needs 6, but we've bought 10. And now she just ran off to deliver them. And I was expecting her to deliver them to Leah Dutil, and I was wondering why she didn't jump on her Kenspa. She just ran straight across the road and went into the general store. I thought, oh, Leah must have gone shopping and not be at home anymore. But no, it turned out she decided to deliver them to Leah's husband, Gaston Dutil. And when he receives the fruit, Gaston says, I will plant these pomegranates in the garden, as the apparition requests. And Muriel's earned 30 visa points. And then she gets another adventure. Anything else? For Muriel Watson. I'm so glad to find out the ghost is not hostile. I was just about to call my real estate agent and give him a piece of my mind. Could you ask the apparition if there is anything else needed? I want to put this entire ghost thing behind me as soon as possible. Objective. Find the tombstone in the secret garden and attempt to communicate with the restless apparition. Reward. None. That's Gaston. That is Elliot St. James, a special merchant standing beside the door there. So Muriel decides to head off straight to the secret garden so she can communicate with the apparition. Muriel arrives at the Dutil home, and fortunately Leah is at home because she won't have access to the apparition if there was nobody there to let her in. I did try to go straight to the apparition, to the tombstone, but the tombstone was not visible until after she had been greeted by Leah Dutil. There she is, going to communicate with the apparition again. Let's see what happens this time. Another adventure. Final resting place for Muriel Weston. Upon morning at the tombstone, a voice whispers on the wind. Now that you ask, there is one more thing. Don't worry, it's a simple task. I wish to lie near my beloved for all eternity. Her tombstone resides in a hidden burial chamber that is tucked away under this garden. Here are my remains. Take them and place them in the burial chest beside hers. When this is done, I will rest in peace. Objective. Place the remains in the burial chest inside the burial chamber of the apparition's beloved. Reward. Visa points. A slight hiss fills the air. Then a powerful silence. A quick thank you. Take this ancient idol as a symbol of my appreciation, is whispered into Muriel's ear. Then all sounds vanish. It appears he is at peace. and she gets 30 visa points. And another adventure laid to rest for Muriel Weston. Gaston Dutil will be pleased to hear the ghost problem has been peacefully resolved. Even more importantly, the garden is now open for visitors. Muriel should tell Gaston Dutil about what has happened. Objective: explain everything to Gaston Dutil to receive some ancient coins. Reward: ancient coins, visa points, and improved relationship. And when she gets back to Gaston, he says, "I'm so glad the apparition is at peace. Who knew a simple garden filled with pomegranates could mean so much to someone? I will cherish the garden in his honour. As for you, here are some old coins I've found in my basement. You have my thanks." Muriel has earned 400 ancient coins, 40 visa points, and increased relationship with Gaston Dutil. In the meantime, Craig is still at the Nectary, but he suddenly gets this great idea that now that he's a level 3 with his visa points in France, he really ought to go to the special merchant and see what goodies he can buy that are available to him now that he's got the higher visa level. So here he is, and he heads off back to the store where Muriel happens to be at the moment, because that's where Elliot St. James, the special merchant, is, in the general store with Muriel and Gaston Dutil and a few other Sims. There isn't much that he actually wants at the moment, but he does buy the certificate of partnership with France. That is something that he wouldn't have been able to get earlier. And he buys a bit of permacam as well, just for the sake of having some in his bag in case he ever needs it.
the webs. Skiba tuni, brab. No biba tulan. Zibi no. Wabla dee.
And we will leave Muriel and Craig in the general store, and we'll go and now do the adventure with Meryl. Meryl's adventure won't take very long, it's not part of a chain, so this is almost at the end of the video. So we're back at the base camp, and Meryl is making her way down to the adventure board, where she's going to see what adventures she can find for herself today. So she's got a nice easy little adventure. I need a date for Meryl. I'm desperately in need of a date, but I'm too nervous to ask this girl, Charlotte Dubois, if she'll go out with me. I'll pay anyone willing to do this for me. So Meryl sets off for the Nectary because Charlotte Dubois happens to be the nectar merchant at the moment. Lucky we knew that. And here she is, arriving at the Nectary. Those grapevines look like they've got grapes on them now, and Craig's not here to pick them. So now she doesn't just go straight up to somebody she doesn't know and ask them to go on a date with a sim that she doesn't know. So she introduces herself first. Now this is difficult for Meryl because Meryl is an evil sim and she has great difficulty being friendly and nice. She always wants to be mean because she's mean-spirited as well as evil. But she's got to be charming with this girl to convince her that she's somebody who should be taken notice of and trusted. Nothing got friendly enough with her now to ask the question. So now she's got to report in. When she reported in to Jean-Luc Pivet, he said, "Thank you for having the courage to do what I couldn't. I've been so lonely lately, and Charlotte Dubois is just so fetching. I'm sure we'll have a good time. Thanks to you, of course. Here's your reward." And Muriel got 15 visa points, increased relationship with Jean-Luc Pivet, and 500 simoleons. Now, Craig was still back at the general store. He'd had a little nap in the tent that's there, and then it occurred to him it was time for them to move on. So he got out of his tent, pulled out his phone, and dialed China. His travel agent has arranged now for Craig and Muriel and Meryl to travel to China, and we will find them in China at the beginning of the next episode. So that's the end of this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you in the next episode. But in the meantime, happy simming. Bye bye for now.